Good morning, guys. It is August 20th, 2022. On this video here, I want to talk to you about vacuum cleaners, vacuum cleaner lifespans, what you should or shouldn't buy, and yeah, I've touched on this a couple times, and I'll tell you, some people just get all bent out of shape about it, but um, I'm gonna say this right up front. These are my opinions only. This is just what I see, what I understand, and what I realize with some of these machines. So before you comment and say, well, you just are telling people to never buy these and never do this and never do that, I'm not saying you can't buy them. I'm just saying these are the machines that I think are good, and these are the machines that I think are not so good. Collectors / enthusiasts out there, you are not the only audience that I am trying to reach here. I am trying to reach average consumers as well. Average consumers don't really care. They just want something that's going to not give them problems and last them a long time, sometimes. So, before you get all upset and bent out of shape, hear me out on this, and if you don't agree with what I'm saying, then that's fine. I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do. I'm just giving you my honest opinions and what I see as good and what I see as not so good. So I'm just gonna get that out of the way up front. Now, first of all, I'm gonna go over some of the machines that aren't so good in today's market. And a lot of these are very popular, but I'm gonna tell you some of what's good and what's not here. But we'll start with what's not so good. Number 1, Shark. Shark is not good, period. Will it get the job done? Yes. But in the long run, they're not going to last very long. They're not going to hold up very well. Parts are very hard to find. They're very difficult to get into. And, for most people, just long term, they're not going to hold up. Now, for some people, they might. But I can tell you, especially in my house with one dog, just one small beagle. I had a Shark Navigator Dlx. Probably one of the most basic Shark vacuums you can get. It was a pain in the butt, to say the least. The filters don't hold up like they say they do. Which, that's fine. I don't mind replacing filters. But the biggest thing for me is the brush roller and the power head. If those things can't easily be serviced or repaired / replaced, then what's the point? is a pain in the butt. You can get into them, but it is a pain. You have to pull out tons of screws, and some people will say, well, you have to do that on a Bissell or a Hoover stuff anyway. And yes, you have to pull out screws, but you don't have to like pop out wheels and do all this other stuff, you know. So yeah, sharks, I would highly advise to stay away from them because they are very expensive. For what you get, it's just not worth the price that they're asking now. And the fancier you get with the sharks, the more complicated it gets, and you're just asking for issues. It's just, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've actually had say to me, well, I bought a shark and I'm not too happy with it because it just keeps, clogging up or breaking or having issues, and it's not holding up in our household of 4 with no pets. I had a lady that actually went through 3 of them in her household of 4, and they have no pets. And she was asking me, I just want something to last. I don't care what it is. I want something strong. I want something reliable. I don't want something too heavy, but I want something that can survive our demanding household because we are hard on our vacuums. And you can say, well, people just need to be more gentle, but you gotta understand that the average consumer is not going to understand that to the level of those of us who are enthusiasts. So, yeah, shark, don't buy those. Next one is Dyson. Now, I will say that Dyson is a little bit better than Shark in terms of like parts availability, but they're still very complicated. They're outrageously expensive for what they are. And they're just all plastic, and sure, you can get a long life out of a Dyson, but, they're always having issues with clogging up or valves not closing properly or switching over properly or cords shorting out or power switches going out, just things like that. I've actually had to replace a Dyson cord. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's not as easy as some of the other machines. I mean, the moral to this whole thing is the more simple you can keep it, the easier it's going to be to work on and the longer it's going to last. And quite frankly, I mean, you're better off, I'm just going to say this right here, you're better off going with a good bagged vacuum cleaner than a bagless vacuum cleaner any day of the week. I'm not saying that all bagless vacuum cleaners are bad. I'm not saying that they're not good at all. But from a repair point of view, bagged vacuum cleaners tend to have less issues than bagless vacuum cleaners, especially with the motors. The more dirt, dust, and debris you can keep out of the motors, the longer it's going to last, the cooler it's going to run, and you know, if you get a good bagged vacuum cleaner, you're going to have that thing for like 20 to 25 years. So it just depends on your needs and everything else. Next one. Now, I will say this is for all of them. All of them. I don't care what model it is or something. The same thing with the Sharks. Just stay away from Sharks, period. Dysons, I wouldn't say never buy them, but I would just say just think about it and just caution you on some stuff about those. Dirt Devils. Now, Dirt Devil used to be pretty decent back in the 90s. And before that, but now they're just absolute pieces of crap. I mean, you are literally throwing your money right into the trash with Dirt Devils. They are not designed to be repaired at all, period. They are always having plastic pieces breaking and melting and not holding up. And just long term, they are not. I mean, they are the definition of a throwaway vacuum cleaner. Hands down. I mean, there is no longevity. There is no parts availability. Absolutely no parts whatsoever other than maybe filters, but that's it. And none of them are bagged anymore. So, yeah, Dirt Devil, run away from Dirt Devil, period. Do not buy a Dirt Devil, guys. So, those are some of the ones to avoid. Oh, and another one. I'm not saying this about all of them, but some of the Bissels I definitely would stay away from. The bagless Power Force Helixes. I think they're decent, but I think in the long run they're probably not going to hold up as well. I would honestly go for the bagged Bissell Power Force units. Some of the higher end Bissells I think would be decent. But again, you're looking at parts availability. I don't know about that. I do know that the bagged Bissell Power Forces parts are everywhere for them. Parts are super cheap for them. If you need a cheap vacuum cleaner that will last you quite a while because you can get parts for, then I would look at good Bissell Power Forces, especially the bagged units. Now, another brand that I would look into, and honestly I have a lot of positive opinions about this brand, Hoover. Now, Hoover has been a little bit interesting over the years. I mean, they haven't been bad per se, but they've had some decent stuff and they've had some crap stuff, and you know, every brand is always going to have something you know, that may be an issue. But, you know, it just depends on the way it was made and what the manufacturers are doing about it. Hoover is decent, I will say. I wouldn't say they're excellent, but if you really want a bagless vacuum cleaner, I would look into Hoover. And why would I look into Hoover over almost everything else? Well, Hoover, for one, parts are fairly common. I mean, Hoovers are everywhere. And the bagless system that Hoover uses is by far one of the best I've seen in terms of like actually being effective and working well. And again, just parts are everywhere. I mean, unfortunately they're not making it anymore, but I do have a Hoover that's it's like 10 years old right now. And it is perfectly healthy. I mean, there is not a single issue with it whatsoever. And I did buy it used, and I've had it a year, but I will say it's really well made. It is bagged. I do prefer bagged vacuum cleaners. Hoover does make some bagged vacuum cleaners, and I would look into those as well. Bagged is honestly going to be a much better investment over bagless in the long run. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with bagless, but if you want a vacuum cleaner for like 25 years, you're probably going to want to really look into bagged. So, yes, so certain Hoovers to kind of stay away from. I would stay away from the older Hoover T Series, especially the bagless, from like the early 2010s. Those were kind of crappy at the time. I think the newer ones now are better. They improved a lot in their design. They built it a little more solid. And they're just great. The Hoover Wind Tunnel High Performance Pet, if you want a strong, large, good, solid machine that's bagless, that is the unit I would look at, hands down. It's an excellent value. You can pick them up for, I believe it's like around 180 to $200. And it is solid. It's easy to service, it's easy to get parts for, things are wonderful with those. Now, there's a few others that I think if you have like a good amount of money to spend and you're not afraid to, really kick it up to the next level, then these are some that are good that I'm going to say. Because I have been accused of saying like, well, you just like high-end stuff and high-end stuff only. That's not necessarily true. I mean, I do prefer higher-end stuff, but I'm not, opposed to the lower-end stuff as well. So that's why I covered those first, to make you people like that happy. So, moving on into the higher grade stuff. Now, there are many that are outstanding, and I will say that, first of all, it all depends on what type of flooring you have in your house and everything like that. But if you want a good canister vacuum cleaner, look into the Miele canister vacuum cleaners. If you have all hard floors, you can look at like the Miele C2, C3 lineup. Those are great straight air vacuum cleaners that are wonderful, and they're canister vacuum cleaners. If you have carpeting and you want a canister vacuum cleaner, I would look into the Miele S8. They are very expensive. Now, the Miele C2 and C3, you can probably pick those up for about $300, $400 a piece. So yeah, they're not cheap, but they will last a very long time. They are German made. They are super quiet, super reliable. They filter extremely well, and they do not lose suction even when the bag is stuffed full to the brim. I mean, any vacuum cleaner will lose suction eventually. But what I'm saying is you can pack them pretty full before you notice any drop in performance. And that's with all the Miele lineup. Now, the Miele S8, you're going to look at spending probably $1,200 to $1,500. Yeah, that's a lot of money. But if you understand that that's an investment and you treat it nicely, it's going to last you a good long time. Again, it's going to filter really well. The Miele S8 does have the power heads for carpet and stuff, which you need a rotating brush and a power head for carpet. There's just no other way around that. Otherwise, you're not going to get your carpet clean. It's just not going to happen. But it all depends on your budget. Now, the Miele S7 or Dynamic U1 uprights. Those are good, and they will last a long time if you take care of them. But there are a few things that tend to be a little bit more problematic on the Miele uprights, and so I honestly would not recommend those too much. I'm not saying that they're bad vacuum cleaners. They're excellent. I think they're great, but I think just long term, for the average consumer, it probably is going to be more of a headache than a help. So just keep that in mind. Now, the next one, this is also German, is the Sibo lineup. Now, Sibo is originally a commercial line of machines that started with the Essential G, G1, G2 uprights, and now they have the Automatic X4, Automatic X5, and a couple others. I mean, there are people that have their Sibos for like 30 years and they're still going. Um, they filter extremely well. They have hospital grade filtration. They are built on a commercial platform, so they are designed to take a beating and put through the ringer. They are designed to be repaired. They are designed to have their brush rollers replaced and any other worn parts replaced and repaired. And they are solid. Now, a Sibo upright is going to run you probably $700 to $800. Yeah. Like I said, some of these aren't cheap. But, if you have the money, and if you don't have the money, you can always, get just a standard, Hoover or something like that, like I mentioned earlier. There's nothing wrong with that. There is no shame in that at all. I have, a lower end Hoover, and then I have things all the way up to a higher end Kirby. So I have both. There's no shame. I like them all for individual reasons. So I'm not saying that you have to buy these. I'm just saying that these are longer term investments and larger investments if you have the money. If you don't have the money, I understand. Do not feel bad. But I'm just giving you a heads up of what's out there because some people don't realize what's out there. Now, the Sibo Airbelt K3 D4 Premium, those are canister vacuums. Those are excellent. Again, they're going to last just as long as the other ones. Have basically the same features except for in canister form. Those are going to run you probably $1,300 to $1,600 a pop. They are not cheap, but once again, they will last you a long time. They will take abuse and beating very well, and they will last for a very long time. Next is the Recar vacuum cleaners. Now, the older, more basic Recar Vibrance line was very simple to repair, based off of the Panasonic design. Very solid, very reliable design. Easily lasted 20 to 30 years, and there's still a ton of them out there used on the market, and you can pick those up used for anywhere from like $150 to $200, and I think they're well worth it. If they're good, in good shape, they're clean, they're good, all that. Now, their higher end stuff, their tandem air stuff, those are excellent in terms of performance and, lasting quite a while and filtering very well. However, because there's so much involved, I have a hard time kind of like really recommending them because they are so sophisticated and there's so much going on that it's not as easy to repair when stuff does go out. And that's not to say that it's not worth it or it's a bad machine. I'm just being honest with what some of the pros are and some of the cons are. Now, the hold on, I lost my train of thought. The Oreck vacuum cleaners. That's next. Oreck is not quite as good as they used to be because they were bought out, but they're still really good. I would still buy a brand new Oreck today. I don't think you're going to have many issues with them. If you can find an older used Oreck, they are everywhere. Parts are everywhere for Orecks. They are super easy to repair, super reliable, last a very long time, very lightweight. Parts are absolutely everywhere for them, both aftermarket and original. They're all over the internet. Bags, belts, brush rollers, handles, cords, switches, you name it. And they're so simple to work on. An Oreck vacuum cleaner will easily last 30 years. At least, with good maintenance and, taking good care of it. Now, there's a couple more, and then I'm going to close out this video. First of all is sanitary. Now, these last two are mostly for if you have a lot of wall-to-wall carpeting. Because if you have mostly hard floors, I would not recommend these last two, to be honest. Even though I love them and I swear by them and I think they're wonderful. But sanitaires. The old style direct air sanitaires that you would see in churches, schools, offices, stuff like that. Those red ones and the bags that inflate and stuff, and there's no tools and everything. Those are beasts when it comes to cleaning carpet. You want clean carpet, that's going to give it to you right there. I would recommend getting one that has the inner bag, either the F&G bag or the ST bag setup. I would not recommend getting a shakeout bag for household environments. Just the shakeout bag is messy. It doesn't filter out quite as much as the disposable bags. And those sanitaires, if any of you are old enough to remember, they're based off of the old style Eurekas with the Vibrogrimmer 2s. Remember how long those lasted and how insanely reliable those were? That's basically what these are. They are beasts. They will last and last and last and last. And parts are everywhere. They are super cheap. It's not even funny. You can get a whole new brush roll for like $10. You can get a new fan for $5 or $6. You can get a whole new base for $30. You can get a new cord for like $20. I mean, it's just insane. And they are built to last and last and last and last and last and last and last. I mean, you cannot go wrong with the good old classic sanitary vacuum cleaners. if you are primarily doing carpet. And you might want to get a small canister vacuum for any little tool cleaning you may need to do, like for your couches and stuff. But I mean, you'd be set for a while, and that's the same thing with the Oryx too. Get a little canister vacuum for little tool use and stuff, because that doesn't have tools on board either. Last but not least, and this machine is definitely not for everybody, but I'm gonna put it on my list because these are some of the best designed vacuum cleaners I have ever seen in my life. The Kirby vacuum cleaners. The Kirby G Series. Now, I'm gonna say, first off, they are heavy. They are 25 to 30 pounds. So, if that kind of weight is not something you can handle, then I would not buy these. So, yeah. So, the Kirby vacuum cleaners last for decades. I mean, they are literally built out of die-cast aluminum. I mean, they are vacuum cleaners of steel. I mean, they are tanks. Are they the best for every household and every situation? No. Again, if you have primarily hard floors, honestly, I would look at other machines. As much as I love the Kirby's, and I swear by the Kirby's, I think if you have mainly hard floors, the Kirby's are probably not going to be as helpful for you. And if you are elderly, disabled, or have any limitations that limits you from lifting that kind of weight, I would not buy a Kirby. It's just not worth it. It does have the transmission in it, so pushing it will be like it's basically floating with the transmission in gear. And some people say that the transmissions go out. Yeah, eventually they may, but I've yet to see a transmission on a Kirby actually fail. I mean, I know it happens, I know it can happen, but, you gotta look at the whole picture of the whole machine. You have basically the best tool setup I've ever seen on a vacuum cleaner. I mean, you have brushes, you have, different angle tools, floor tools, good length of hose and stuff. And the hose isn't on board. You have to take the nozzle off and put the hose on. But if you can deal with that, I mean, the tools are incredible. And the Kirby's easily last, 30, 40, 50 years or more. I've seen some people that have them for, oh gosh, 60 years. And Kirby is not somebody who thinks short term. They think long term. They think, how long can you keep your machine? Show us pictures of your machine and how it's doing. I mean, I have a Kirby G5 from 1998. That thing purrs like a kitten. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. And the Kirby company actually treats you like a human being. They call you by your name. They are outstanding to work with. It's not just the vacuum cleaner itself. It's the customer service. It's the company. It's the care of the customer and the quality, the quality customer relationship. That's amazing to me. And again, parts so widely available, relatively cheap. I mean, they're not the cheapest, but they're not outrageous either. They're very reasonable. Bags, belts, brush rollers, cords, transmissions as they go out, stuff like that. Now, I would not buy a Kirby brand new unless you have like a boatload of money to throw away, because they will try to get you to buy it for $3,000. And average price, people spend about $1,500 to $2,000 for them, brand new. Now, you can get them for about $800 brand new if you really discuss with them. But, that all depends. There are a lot of used ones out there all over. There's a lot of people that don't really like how heavy they are, so they sell them. Again, if the weight and all the stuff with the Kirby is not an issue for you, then by all means, buy a Kirby. I mean, you hear so much negative about them, and yeah, it's got its drawbacks, but you've got to look at the whole picture too. And yes, don't be stupid. Don't go out and buy a Kirby if you are 70 years old walking with a cane and can't do anything. I'm not saying that, but I know that there are some people that actually can use them, and I know people who can, and I do. I use them, and they are solid. I mean, the motors run cool, they last a very long time. They just are tanks. But I would look at a good used one, and you can find good used ones for anywhere from sometimes $75 to $100, all the way up to maybe $500. And you can get them rebuilt and reconditioned, refurbished for $500, $600. And it is well worth every penny to me. I actually have two Kirbys. The G5 I was graciously given by a trade from a friend, and the Ultimate G that I have which is a 2003. I paid $100 for like 5 years ago, and never had even the slightest issue with either of them. Especially the one that I got 5 years ago, not even the slightest issue. So just long term, they're going to last you a very long time. So that about does it for this video, guys. I know it was a long one, but I wanted to discuss some of this with you and really give some of my honest opinions and stuff. And I'm telling the truth here, guys. You can get upset with me all you want. You can get all bent out of shape and argue with me all you want. It's not going to change the way that I view these vacuum cleaners and the way I've thought about them, because I've done a lot of research. I've been looking at this stuff for over 10 years now. I've been researching repairs. I've been working on vacuum cleaners. I've been dealing with vacuum cleaners consistently for just over 10 years now. So, do I know everything? No. But I know quite a bit about what's good and what's not, and what's out there and what's available. And I want to share that knowledge that I have with people. So, you can take this or leave it, and I don't care what you have to say, but your nasty comments aren't going anywhere with me. So, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.